Scenes like this are often used to portray death or dying. However, death is a very real part of everyone's life and should be treated as a natural, not morbid occurrence.
We're here at Byron's Funeral Home with Ernest A. Byron Jr., the director of the funeral home here at State Street, Springfield. How long has Byron's Funeral Home been in existence?
Since the late 1890s, starting at the south end of Springfield and moving to this location in 1924.
I understand this was passed down to you by your father.
That's right. I'm the third generation in the business, which is not unusual in the New England area.
Do you plan on passing it on to your children?
If they're so inclined, and only if they're so inclined.
If your father hadn't been a mortician, do you think you would have gone into this field of work?
Well, that's hard to speculate on. As I say, I was brought up with it. I really don't know.
What was it like being the son of a mortician?
I don't think really any different than any other family circumstances, except, as I say, it may have been irregular hours as far as presence.
What was your wife's first reaction when she met you, when she found out you were a mortician?
Well, I think because of her own professional background, not such a great reaction that you might expect from a regular layperson. She's a registered nurse, so I think it was with much more understanding, perhaps, than other people might have.
How do you feel about the image the mortician has been given by the people? Such as the little guy who runs around, you know, oh, another one, you know, and...
Oh, I think portrayals have been very unreasonable, if not humorous, in television characterizations or movies and so on.
Mr. Byron, would you explain what the Byron's Funeral Home was before it was a funeral home?
Well, this building was originally one of the McKnight homes, the original builders of the Hill McKnight area, and is now part of this historic area that's been established in recent years here. And when we purchased it, my dad purchased it back in 1924, it was then owned by a doctor. And since that time, we have added on quite a bit to it. But as you can see, it was a very elegant home.
I noticed the ceiling is done pretty much like a ceiling you see in the White House.
This is, I have been told, a duplicate of the ceiling in the Blue Room in the White House. It was a beautiful piece of work.
Mr. Byron, what is the most important room here at the home?
As far as public use, I would say probably our main parlor. Here again, depending upon what the family's wishes are for site of the actual funeral service. Of course, some funeral services are held in the church. Many are held right here at the funeral home, so I would say that that's probably the most important parlor as far as the public is concerned, or area of the building. There are many specialized areas, whether it be where the organs are situated, as well as music aspects of things.
We're in the casket display room at Byron's Funeral Home. Mr. Byron, this is your lowest priced casket. Is this usually where you start with your customers?
Yes, usually what I'll do is when I bring a family up to the casket display room to make a selection, I will start at this point here, explain to them where costs begin for the complete service, and explain to them what's incorporated in that pricing as far as choice of outside receptacle, what they might anticipate for cemetery expense, whether they have to purchase, or what the preparation charge would be. And then explain to them what the different materials are, what the price range is, and then at this point I will usually leave them to retire to another area of the display room so that they can talk freely and privately and basically seek their own level.
They work their way around.
Right. In other words, they're free to look at what's on display and, as I say, monetarily decide what they feel is appropriate.
What is the material this coffin is made out of?
This particular casket here is a wood shell with a cloth covering and a satin interior. Other materials used are steel. Here again, varying grades or gauges of steel. Some of the metal caskets are sealer type caskets. In the wooden caskets, some are not any specific wood, but are finished in different finishes, whereas other caskets are a pure wood, such as oak, mahogany, cherry, so on. And here again, variations in interiors as to whether they're crepe or velvet. But there is a card in each casket which gives a description of the type of casket it is and the materials involved.
This type of setting comes to mind when the word mortician is mentioned. Hopefully through this interview, you will see how alike a mortician is to you and I. The mortician's job is important to everyone. Although we don't come in contact with him every day, we should show him much respect.